Hello everyone, I am Hayden Rice from Robusto Industries. First of all, I'd like to start off by thanking all the representatives from the company for coming here today to listen to my presentation about the data that I've so rigorously worked hard to analyze, to put in this easy to understand format, which I feel will not only allow you gentlemen to understand the data and the company that you represent more, but also allow you to see certain aspects of what one group does more than the other, and through this information will allow you to improve the company to make it the best that it can be. So first of all, we start with the survey data. So here we have the ID. So for instance, we have Michael Guerco, Larry Abadba, some of these names, Eugene Park, and then here we have certain categories like MDSK, MBC, SDS, and they go from numbers of 1 to 7. And now, when you look at it on your own, you don't know what any of these numbers mean. But on this sheet, it shows what these numbers represent. It is a rating from 1 being very ineffective to 7 being very effective. So here, this person got a 7. They're amazing. This person right here, 1, not so much. Then as we continue, then we have a performance average, which, if you know how averages work, it combines all 3 numbers and then divides by 3. So for instance, 6 plus 5 plus 1 is 12. Divided by 3 is 4. Then we have the salary. We have the department they go under, for instance, marketing, finance, and if we look here, we also put values to the department. So finance is 1, HR is 2, marketing is 3, production is 4, purchasing is 5, and R&D is 6. So that way, when we are coming up with the statistics, we could see, okay, how many of finance we have, how many of production, how many of purchasing. So there's that. So if we look back on the survey data, you see we have the department, and then we have this. So for instance, we have E1 to E4, SC1 to SC4. Now these all mean certain things, and when we get to the pivot table, they'll be, not abbreviating. So for instance, this is engagement, and so this also shows surveys of 1 to 7. So you can see here we have a lot of data, but of course this is only the beginning, although it is the building block, because if it wasn't for this data, we would not be able to get the other bits of pivot tables and charts that we have now. And look, here's also the average. So we have engagement, satisfaction and commitment, SC, satisfaction with manager, which I think is SM. We have career development opportunities, which is CDO, and then we have the overall average of all of these. So now we see the basis for our data. We go to the first pivot table. This one works for the averages of, for instance, performance, engagement, satisfaction and commitment, satisfaction with manager, career development opportunities, and average overall. So all of the averages that we acquired from the survey data are here, and it correlates each one with like averages from, for instance, all the finance, all the HR, marketing, production, purchasing, and R&D. So as you can see here, you have each one, and then all of them go together, the averages, to form a grand total. And if you look here, we also have use the data and put it into a chart. So for instance here, R&D, you can see that the highest average is for average of engagement for R&D. For purchasing, the highest average is average of performance. And how you can use this data to improve the company is that you can see which averages are better in a department. So for instance, you can see that in R&D has the highest average of engagement. So if you want to learn how to improve engagement, you can look to see what R&D is doing, because That's pretty high. Same thing for average performance, and even some of them to the lesser extent. It looks like a lot of the high ones come from here. Average overall also seems to be higher here. Some of them are a bit closer, but you know not to pick, for instance, this one or this one for average of satisfaction and commitment because they're pretty low. So already you can see the uses by we are able to know which departments have better averages just by all the service data we gathered. Then we have pivot table 2, which is like pivot table 1, but instead, let me get it straight. So instead, it is, you still have all 6 departments, but instead now it's the averages of MDSK, MBC, and SDS. So this basically works the same way. You have the average of each one to each department, and then you have the total of each average, and then it's put into the chart where it's used the same way. So if you see that, for instance, purchasing has the highest average of SDS, then you will obviously look at the SDS average and not the MDSK. And here, these two are pretty tied, so you want to see, like, maybe, take this to improve the SDS of R&D. So that's the general idea for these 2 pivot tables. We can see the average, we can see which ones are doing better, and by learning from these departments, we can improve the other averages of these aspects of the companies and the departments. Then we have the scatter plots. So we have 2 scatter plots, which is performance average to salary and performance average to overall average. So performance average to salary is, it shows the data and the correlation between the performance averages, how well they're doing, and the salaries. And while, it's a scatter plot, so, there's a few outliers, it does show pretty consistently that the higher performance you have, the higher salary you have, which, I feel can benefit the company. So, for instance, it can kind of, for one, gauge what salary we should give to workers, and we can also, maybe also show the salaries in a way either to incentivize or maybe focus on the lower working performance employees to see if we can improve them. So, and it's also good just to know the correlation, and also we can also see if someone is getting the salary they deserve. So if they're, for instance, this person has in between 6 and 7, but they're only getting like below 60,000. Now, that should be pretty high up. So that way we can see who really deserves what salaries for their hard work. Then we have performance average to overall average, which compares each person's performance average and compares it to the other aspects and their overall average. Now, it looks like to me here, even though there is a few fluctuations, it's actually pretty consistent between, no matter if it's between 2 or 6, the overall average is somewhere in between 3, 4, and 5. I feel like this can be beneficial to the company by showing that, for one, who has good overall averages, but since overall averages are in between the spectrum, we now know and we can focus on those with performance averages. These are important, but since we're really seeing fluctuations with performance average, we can now see, this person has a good overall average, but they have a low performance average. Now, the last bit of data I want to look at is the descriptive stats. These are just a few things that we put, that I analyzed through, for instance, all the survey data. So, for instance, I put which department had the most, and that is finance. So you can see that that's the best company. You could use it maybe to if you really want to look at that company, or maybe if you want to congratulate, I mean, finance is doing pretty good. Maybe give them a warm round of applause. And then, of course, it shows the mean salary, median salary. This is good to see, like, is this a good average? Should it be higher, lower? Let's see, of course, it shows, for instance, what is the max salary? What is the minimum salary? You can see, is that too high? Is the minimum salary too low? And the standard deviation of the salary. And then we have the mean of MDSK, MBC, and SDS. So that's a little extra there, again, to see, to compare. And let me look over to see if there's any other data, but I feel like I've just went over all the important data. Let me see. And the dashboard is just a collection of both the pivot table data and the scatter shots of both 1 and 2, if I remember correctly. So then we have survey data. Code, and then this is just when we separated, the part of this survey data. And that is all the data I have to present. So as you can see, this company is doing pretty well, and I hope that I was able to define some ways that even though at first this seems like just a bunch of random numbers, through putting the data through these formulas and creating pivot tables, charts, and scatter plots, that you're able to see some of the benefits of what you can do to improve certain aspects of the company. And also, it is just nice to know that, at least for the most part, it seems like these were pretty good survey results. But if it wasn't what you expected, then you can use the ideas I presented to improve the company. I thank all the representatives from Rubber Show Industries for coming, and I was very proud to try my best to analyze all this data, and I bid you a good day.